In Tutorial 1, we briefly looked at some basic features of PowerPoint 2013. In this tutorial, we will explore the program a little further. We will utilize the presentation we started in Tutorial 1, which is about deer in India. First step is to add a new blank slide. Under the Home tab is the trigger for a new slide. On this slide, I want to show a heading. It is just a few words, so I format the background to make the slide more interesting. We go to Design, then Format Background. I will use a picture, so I'll browse the project folder and select it. Being background, I don't need to set any instructions for it. I will need to set instructions for the text though. Go to Insert, then Text Box, and enter the text. Remember, 40 point is the minimum, but being a heading slide, I will go higher. We'll leave font color at black for the moment and see how it looks on the background. The instruction for the text is how it will appear. Something fairly simple by way of animation. We can use fade or spin or one of numerous other options. Then animate with fade in, and with the animation pane set entry to be after the last item, and set timing and duration. Next, the main slide content. This will be a picture. Go to Insert, Picture, browse for the file and select. The picture doesn't fill the frame, so we drag on the corners. Now for the instructions. We will animate it with zoom. It should enter immediately after the heading text, after a couple of seconds, and I'll set the zoom speed to fast. Next, we want a subtitle on the picture. Go to Insert, Text Box, and choose minimum 40 point text. Choose an appropriate color, white. Now this too requires instructions. We will animate the text to fade in about 1 second after the previous item and fast. Slides can be loaded up with a number of pictures, but sometimes it makes keeping track a bit tricky. So we will use new slides for subsequent pictures of this series and finalize this slide. Go to Transitions, set to Fade Transition, and set Change to Advance after 5 seconds. We'll untick the mouse advance. At this point, we will go to Home and add a blank slide. Then we will test the performance of the newly finished slide before doing more. Select the slide before the newly finished slide and then go to Slideshow, then From Current Slide, which is the one we just selected. The show will advance through to the blank slide and we can evaluate whether we are satisfied. It is easier at this point to do any fine-tuning before proceeding to the next slide. Now select the new blank slide. Go to Design, then Format Background, browse and insert a picture. Since this is going to be a series, we'll use the same background. Now go to Insert a Picture, browse, select and draw it out to fit the frame. Animate the picture as we did in the previous slide. Zoom and same timings. Then go to Insert Text Box. Put in a subtitle at 40 points. Then animate with Fade In, and with the animation pane set entry to be after the last item, and set timing and duration. Then set Transition to Fade and Advance after 5 seconds, and untick the mouse advance as before. We have 2 more pictures in this series, so we will create slides for them too, finishing with a blank slide at the end. It is useful to again test the results by starting a few slides back and do a test run with slideshow Start from current slide. I have deliberately kept to the same set of instructions throughout the series. Resist the temptation to try other transitions and animations. The show is not about special effects, but about content. Use only enough effects to enhance the presentation. The next slide will be about something similar. However, in this one we will introduce several captions and animate each. Starting with a new blank slide, we will go to Design, Format Background, browse and select the picture from the project folder. You will note that I have planned ahead and already have all the relevant images and media in a project folder. Next, I enter a title. Go to Insert, Text Box. I want a large title, so I select 48 point. Next, I animate the title. I select Fade In, which I have used before, and then click on the trigger for the animation pane. This gives me more options from the little black chevron or down arrow. I set the entry to be after the previous item, and set the timing delay at 1 second and the entry speed at medium. This time I only want the title to remain on the screen until the next text appears, so under the Effects tab I set the text to hide after the next mouse click. Now we want a new text box for new text. Large text again, I will use 44 point. Default color is black. Then animate with fade in, and with the animation pane set entry to be after the last item, and set timing at half a second and medium duration. We repeat this for another short message. Text box, text, animate with fade in, set to appear after last item, timing at half a second and medium duration. I have 4 such messages. We have used large prominent text because the background is fairly dominant and busy. If we were entering large blocks of text, a dominant background would be inappropriate as it makes text hard to read. Having finished with content for this slide, we go to the Transition tab, set to Fade Transition, and activate transition after 15 seconds. The actual time would depend on the amount of text on the screen to read. Next, we add a blank slide. Go to Home, Add Slide. We do this each time we have finished a slide because we can do a test run of our work and transition to a blank slide. A useful feature of PowerPoint is the ability to hyperlink to another file. We need a trigger, of course, something on the slide that says Jump to Example. Example can be any sort of file, but it must be accessible to PowerPoint and therefore in the Project folder. For the first example, we will provide a hyperlink to another PowerPoint show. Unfortunately, the link will not go to a specified slide, only to the whole show. So a slide will have a picture or words linked to the new file. At the end of the show, you set the slide advance by mouse clicks, one to exit the PowerPoint file and one to advance the slide. At this point, we probably should do another test to make sure that the hyperlink worked. Another example is to link to an Excel file. However, remember in Tutorial 1 there was a rule that only pages that had been prepared for screen use should be used. Accordingly, the font size on this Excel file has been dramatically increased. However, Excel controls remain and can be used to scroll and to exit. Again, advance the slide after viewing by a mouse click. The final feature we will explore in this tutorial is the presenter view. When the presenter is projecting onto a screen, it is usual to play the file as a full presentation. In other words, the audience only sees the main window. With the feature called Presenter View, that is still the case, but on the presenter's screen can also be seen a commentary. This requires, of course, that notes are written in the notes box. If it isn't visible underneath the slide, click on the trigger at the bottom in the orange band. I will cut and paste some text. Be aware, though, that if you have timed a slide to transition off the screen, you may not have time to narrate all of the notes before the presentation moves on. If there is a lengthy narration, the slide change will need to be triggered each time with a mouse click. The presenter view is designed to allow you to present the commentary reading from your screen, whilst the audience only sees the images in the main window. This makes paper notes unnecessary. If you can only view your presentation on your computer and wish to get an idea of what you will see when the presentation is shown on another screen, make sure the presenter screen is ticked and then press Alt F5. The presentation will commence from the beginning. Text size can also be increased here, and text can be scrolled. Note also, for your convenience, a thumbnail of the next slide to be screened is also shown. PowerPoint does have a feature where you can record commentary. Go to Insert Audio. This is a very basic process. You need, of course, a microphone arrangement. I always prefer to record commentary separately, using Adobe Audition or Nero Wave Editor. This allows the recording to be edited, which can be important for removal of unwanted sounds, mistakes, verbal stumbles, etc., which are almost inevitable, particularly in a commentary that may run for 30 minutes or more. With a suitable sound editor too, you can mix in music for a combined sound file. This ends the tutorial.